Hello everyone and welcome to the Beyond the Big Six podcast. We've had a bit of time off. I can't remember the last time we recorded one of these. Feels like a while ago. But we're back now, probably from now at the end of the season, to talk all things Premier League. Today we're going to do some ups and downs. So we're going to look at the Premier League table and we're going to ask if the team is going to finish where they are, if they're going to finish higher, if they're going to finish lower. Big Tone, how are we doing? Did you enjoy? Well,
I'm
I suppose
alright.
you probably didn't enjoy, but how was the game last night, Newcastle against Man City?
Yeah, yeah. A typical game against Manchester City, unfortunately.
We did beat them like a month ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah, but there is that, but back to the norm.
Yeah, fair enough. Niall, how's things?
Good, very good. I haven't been on one of these in a very long time, so looking forward to getting in amongst and upsetting some supporters of various clubs.
Fair enough. Well, let's look at the Premier League table then. Well, I'll just read it out. But currently we've got Wolves in 20th. Anyone got any movement on Wolves? Anyone think Wolves will be higher, or do you think lower? Yeah, Niall, you're going higher.
I think they'll move up.
Yeah.
I think Burnley are the sorry, I'm just loading my table. I think Burnley are the worst team in the league. Um, and I think Wolves have got nothing to play for. They're not going to stay up, and I think they're starting to play for Edwards. Their performances. I watched them against Man United. They played really well, and I just think that they're really starting to wake up. And they're battered West Ham. I don't think they're good enough to stay up at all, but I think that Burnley are worse than them, and I think they'll beat Burnley at Turf Moor, and they're only 6 points behind them at the minute. I think they'll overtake them. So I've got Burnley moving up one place.
Yeah, I have the same. I have Burnley going down to 20th and I have Wolves up in 19th. I actually half debated putting Wolves above West Ham. I'm not a big fan of what West Ham are doing, but I didn't. I slotted West Ham in at 8th. So we may as well talk about that. I mean, I presume, Tone, you've went with the current bottom three, have you?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I did have Forest in the last one at 20s we did in third bottom, and I do think Nottingham Forest have done far worse than people would have expected under Sean Dyche, but I do think they'll be alright. 17th place though, I've got Forest in there, 17th. Has anyone got them higher?
No, I've got them in at 17th.
Tony, 17th?
Um, that's a tricky one for me. I do think that they're one of these inconsistent sides this season, and I do feel as though Dyche can get a tune out of them, but Leeds obviously lost against Newcastle there just before we stopped doing, and that kind of put a bit of a dent in their running form. But they seem to have found their groove, and that they seem to be on a bit of a run. So I probably will put them in the same place.
Fair. Yeah, I've got them in 17th as well. 16th, I have Bournemouth moving down. So Bournemouth are currently in 15th. I have them down in 16th place. I've moved them down one place, which means I've got Leeds moving up one place. Has anyone done similar, or does anyone totally disagree on that one?
Uh, I've kept Leeds in 16th, but literally only because it's a very, very hard thing to do. I didn't realise how hard this was until I tried to do it. It was giving us a headache, so I stopped doing it for a little while and then I went back to it. But yeah, so I've got Leeds in at 16th, but I do actually think they'll finish higher. But then the other teams above them, I think they won't finish as low as 16th. So I was a bit
Yeah.
like, no, I'm keeping them there because I don't have a clue. But I'll eat me humble pie with Leeds. They've been superb. Even the Newcastle game that Tony was talking about, I thought they were superb, and I thought they deserved to come out of that game with something. They got stung right at the end with a million minutes at a time. So yeah, I don't really. I I think Leeds will stay up comfortably. I think they've turned to be a really good side, which is against everything I've said all season. But I didn't know where else to put them, so I just kept them where they are. But I do think they'll finish higher, but I don't know who gets finished lower.
Yeah, I had this issue when I got into the top like 10, and I was like, oh god, I don't know who to put in the top 10 because the Premier League's so compact right now. It is difficult. But Tony, where you got Leeds? Have you still got them 16th, or you got them moving up?
Yeah, I'm sticking with him at 16th. Dominic Calvert-Lewin fast becoming one of the signings of the season. Free transfer and we had our doubts over him, but he's, proven a lot of doubters wrong. Absolutely brilliant for them.
Is he getting in the England squad? Maybe, Niall. I mean, you're the England fan here. I know Tony doesn't care, but
if we're picking another striker other than obviously the obvious Kane and Watkins, at the minute I'm going with Danny Welbeck. I just think he not only is he shown he's still got goals in him, but you've got that older head, that level head. The other spot for me is, I know Solanke, if he had been fit, would probably have gotten it, but obviously he can't get there now, even if he is fit by then. So Danny Welbeck for me, I think deserves that third play, because he's going to be happy to be on the bench as well, isn't he?
That goal against Man United there the other night was an absolute belter.
Oh, he's just
for anybody who hasn't seen it, well worth a look. Absolute cracker in the cup there.
He's aging like a fine wine, isn't he? He's a brilliant player.
Spurs obviously are 14th in the Premier League. I've left them in 14th place. I'm not convinced by Spurs. I know we're not going to dive into them too much. But
what about 15th?
Well, I had Leeds in 15th, so I had them moving up. Oh, so I suppose, I don't know what you were doing. You got Bournemouth in 15th.
No, I had Bournemouth moving up. I've got them in 14th.
Who you got moving down?
I mean, this is so confusing. Who's in 14th now?
Tottenham are 14th right now.
Oh, well, I've got them moving up. I don't know. I haven't got a clue.
It's not that difficult. You just look at your new Premier League table and I'll tell you the teams that are in. So who do you currently have in 15th and 14th?
Right, 14th I've got Bournemouth, 15th I've got Everton.
Right, so you've got Everton falling down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only a couple of places. No, they're 13th, aren't they?
12th.
Or 12th. Yeah. Not considerably. They're throwing down 3 spaces and they've been terrible for weeks.
They've got loads of injuries though, and players at AFCON and stuff.
They've still been terrible for weeks, so yeah, I've got them coming down. And
Grealish is suspended, isn't he?
And so's Keane.
Keane's 3 games. Grealish will be back because you only got a second yellow.
Oh
yeah. I can't believe they tried to appeal that red card. And said that he didn't deliberately.
Do you know what? I was so confused about the fume after that game from Everton about those 2 red cards, because both were red cards. I don't understand how they have any grounds to think they weren't.
It's a bit. Well, I don't know if anybody's seen the FA Cup at the weekend. I know Connor did. David Moyes said it was definitely a penalty against Trey Hume, and you're kind of thinking, I don't really know. Even every Everton supporter I've seen have said that's never a penalty.
Yeah, nobody's.
So
I've not seen anyone other than David Moyes say that was a penalty. I don't even think Asnu, who went down, thought that was a penalty for Everton.
Yeah, but I mean, he bought it.
I struggle with it. I watched that back and I was like, oh, all right, they've given that. Okay, that's interesting.
Well, imagine how you feel watching it when you've seen for 90 minutes Sunderland just be in such comfortable control of that game, and then the referee just hand a penalty for no reason in the last minute of the game.
And you've got to play an extra half an hour.
Yeah, we're not all about that recently.
Yeah. Right, Tony, where are you at with Everton? You got them.
Okay, it's all this jumping around. I'm trying to wrap my head around this, if I'm honest. Say I'm on Bournemouth.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us, right? Why don't you tell us from what you've got 11th down to...
Oh, I'm not that organised. I'm just looking at the league table and going from there.
Okay. You see, I rewrote mine.
Okay.
Right, okay. That was organised.
Okay, well, Bournemouth, you got them moving up or down?
I've got them moving up. I do think Iriola will steady the ship and turn things around and get them back playing at their best. They've got a few players missing, Clivert got a knock. I know obviously losing Semenyo is massive. He played in the cup there yesterday, which is another dubious thing. New rule change. But anyway, I do think you'll get a tune out of them, and Evan Nielsen is a cracking player, and I just see them moving up the table. So how high? I think possibly maybe it's as high as 13th. I'll go.
I just worry about Bournemouth just can't defend. Like, they just
It,
concede millions of goals.
you know what it is? I had them moving up. Like I put them in 14th, but again, it's just because I hadn't got a clue who the players were. After the bottom three, I was just kind of just putting teams anywhere. But
Just
in
mushy.
reality, I think if West Ham were to find some form and get out of it, Bournemouth would probably be one of the teams you'd say who would get sucked in, because I know that they got that win. They won 3-2, didn't they? Who did they beat?
Chelsea.
They beat, was that in the league? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aye. They beat Chelsea 3-2. But Semenyo was still there.
No,
He
it
scored
wasn't.
in
It
the-
was Tottenham. They beat Tottenham.
It was Tottenham, yeah. Semenyo was still there. Scored in the last, yeah. Now he's gone. And I'm kind of thinking, unless they pull a rabbit out of the hat, they're losing so many goals, because it's not just the goals he scores, it's obviously the assists as well. So, you look at them and you think they could be one of the teams that come in if West Ham were to pick up form. I mean, I don't think West Ham will. I think they're doomed, if I'm being honest. But you've got to look at Bournemouth and think they could be next in line, really, if Sean Dyche does turn Forest around, because I can't see anybody else dropping into it.
Yeah, no, I think Bournemouth potentially. They've got 26 points. I mean, they've got 12 points on West Ham. That's the thing. So that's probably why they're going to be all right. Tottenham are in 14th, right? Palace are in 13th. Have we got movement on Palace? Are we happy with them?
I kept them in 13th.
I moved them up to 12th.
I thought you said Everton was it?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Everton, not 12. Yeah. I've kept them in 13th.
Okay, that's fine. Right. So currently, you've got Brighton in 11th.
I've got them 12th.
I've got them 10th. it's all very mushy. Tony's confused. He didn't write it all down, so he's just in a world of his own.
Brighton, I can see moving up the table. How far? Debatable. I'd probably just go one position and go 10th.
I had Man United dropping down to 11th as well. My actual big hot take on this, even though they're not a Big Six team, Man United and Spurs, I think one of them gets relegated from the Premier League in the next 3 years.
You know what it is? I think I totally agree, and I don't think Spurs. I think Man United. I think Man United will get relegated in the next 2 to 3 seasons. They'll go down. That
So I'm not
club
including
is.
this season. I'm including
God,
from next season
things
on.
you would love to see. Things you would love to see.
I think.
Meltdown would be epic.
I don't think Spurs, because I think Spurs are too well run as a club financially. Yeah, they're the best well run in the club in the country financially.
They must have spent the worst. The amount of money they've spent on that team. They are is a word that I like to use. They are hungry.
Yeah, but they bring in a lot of money, Spurs, and
So do Man United, though.
yeah, but Man United's just, they haven't got a clue what they're doing up there, man. It's just,
I don't think
you know,
Spurs do.
nah, but I think Spurs have got more of a clue than I think Spurs have just been, they've been poor over the last few years. But I think Man United is different. It's a sinking ship that's sinking and sinking. They've got people at the top that haven't got a clue what's going on. Sorry, I know we're not supposed to talk about them, but I'm talking about them.
I did bring
Yeah.
it up.
So they've got people that haven't got a clue what's going on, and then they get confused and they get a bit itchy feet, and then they go, I know what we'll do. Transitional period. Let's bring in Ollie. Let's bring in Michael Carrick at the end of the season. Oh, transitional period. And then the fans will understand. It's just what they're doing over and over again. It's not a way to run a football club. They are going down. In the next 2 seasons or 3 seasons, Man United will get relegated, mark my words.
There we go. Right, 10th place at the minute is Sunderland. I have Sunderland moving up to 7th.
I had them 10th. I think it just got really confusing for us. I didn't know where to put anybody, because
I wish I'd never done this. I feel like this has been a real issue for the 2 years.
Wait, the thing is, right? It was so hard to do, because, and I know it's strange because they're rivals and we're Sunderland and Newcastle, but this is where my problem's been, because Newcastle have obviously, they're sitting in 6th at the minute, but I look at their schedule and the fact they're already picking up injuries, I think Newcastle might struggle, but I don't think they'll struggle in the sense they'll shoot down the table. But I don't think they'll get top 5. But I think with Sunderland have just had a period where the 7 of their first team players weren't there. Dan Bollard was also injured for a while. In that period, they had to play Manchester City twice. They had to go to Tottenham away. They had to go to Brighton away. And they only lost once. Yeah, they had the Brentford game, which was, we'll just put that down to a shocking performance, which it was. But the rest of the teams have played, and they've still hung in there, and they managed to hit the 30-point mark. Yeah, the only problem is that they haven't been winning the games, but when you're on the point total they're on, and you've lost all the players have lost, it doesn't really matter. But now some of them are getting the players back. I feel like they've got every chance to shoot up the league, but I don't want to say some of them are going to finish 7th or 6th because I think it's a daft thing to put. But logic would tell you that they've done so well without their best players. When the best players come back, they're going to do even better. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just a mess.
Well, I'm willing to put my neck on the line. I'm going to have Sunderland in 7th place. I look at the Premier League the way it is, and I think there's a lot of between basically 5th down to 15th. There isn't really that much between all them teams, and I think Sunderland, when they get their AFCON players back, they're very difficult to beat. The home form's obviously very, very good. The next 3 games are pretty important. They've got to play Crystal Palace at home, who are in really bad form, West Ham away, and Burnley at home. If they could pick up 7 points, which I don't think is unrealistic, then I think you'd have to probably put them in that conversation. But yeah, I've got Sunderland moving up to 7th. Anyway, Tony, how are you feeling about Sunderland? Do you think? I mean, you were very late to the party on Sunderland. You still thought they were going down in like October.
Yeah, Sunderland have played really well. Still unbeaten at home. The only real blip that they've had recently is against Brentford, and Brentford's playing amazing. They're a hard team to go to. You get something at Brentford. It is a cracking result. Props to Brentford though. I know Niall said, poor Sunderland performance, but you can only play what's in front of you, and from a Brentford point of view, that it's a cracking result. So yeah, I can see Sunderland going maybe. I'm going to say 9th. I'm going to say they're going to jump up from one position from where they are, and top half finish this season, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I think Sunderland are going to go, I'm guessing, pretty heavy on the FA Cup this year. That'll be, from my perspective anyway, very exciting. Right, Fulham, they're in 9th. They've had a massive upturn, haven't they? They just seem to, I don't know, they just continue to do really well, even though they've got an aging squad. They were going through that bad period. They lost like 6 games in a row, didn't they? At some point, like September, October, but they bounced back. They're flying right now. Must be one of the formed teams. 31 points for 21 games. They're not going down. I have them. They're currently in 9th, so yeah, I have them staying in the same place. I'm very happy with where Fulham are right now. I think they'll probably finish in the top 10. Any disagreements?
I've got them 6th.
Wow.
I just think the football they've been playing, and they've got players there right now who seem to be, in the form of their lives. Harry Wilson, players like that. They've lost key players to AFCON. They're going to come back and they're only going to get stronger. Yeah, the problem is, it sounds ridiculous to say, but the league is so strange this year. As you said, it's very clumped together. 6th, I would probably have had Newcastle in there, but I just don't trust the amount of games they have to play. That's my only issue with Newcastle. Talent wise, I would have Newcastle 6, maybe even higher. But it's just the amount of games they've got. So I've dropped them down to 8th, which I think is possibly a bit ridiculous, but I'm sure they'll go on a run where it's like PSG, Liverpool. It's basically Saturday, Wednesday for it's crazy. I just think that's going to be too much for them. I really do. So yeah, they probably could have done with getting knocked out the FA Cup, to be honest with you. But then again, their season possibly would have been over, wouldn't it? Because I don't know if they're going to turn that round at the Etihad. I mean, they've still got the Champions League, but anyway, yeah, I just think I looked at it and I didn't know who to put where. Man United, are they going to get better under Carrick? I think they will. I think they'll. Well, I'm not sure if they'll get better, but I don't think they'll go on a massive slump. I think he'll stabilise them. He'll do the basics, and they'll reap the rewards for it, like what happened with Ilgan and Solskjaer. It's not long term, so I've got them in at 7th. So yeah, so it was 6, 7, 8 is Fulham, Man United, Newcastle. But just because I didn't have a clue where to place anyone, because it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I had Man United in 11th. I think they'll drop off. Chelsea, who are currently 8th, I have in 5th. Not that I'm a big truster in what they're doing, but I don't know, I just kind of trust them more than I trusted the other teams. Well, I don't know.
It's just impossible to call. I mean, like I said, I've got Chelsea in 5th as well, but I look at it and think, is Liam Rossini? I mean, it could turn out to be an unbelievable move, but I just don't know if it is. And like as I say, I would rather have Newcastle there, but it's just the games, and but somehow I've got Chelsea 5th, but I don't even think they'll finish 5th.
Yeah, well, I have Newcastle.
Terrible
6th.
Idea.
So Newcastle, I have them finishing where they are right now, and just to finish me off, I have Brentford dropping down to 9th, and I have Aston Villa finishing in the same place. Tony, where are you at with, well, Fulham? I don't think you've talked about, but also Newcastle. Do you think Fulham will potentially get Europe? Do you think Newcastle will stay the course for where they are? I mean, Newcastle are currently 6th. They're actually only like 3 points away from 12th. That's like how mad the Premier League table is right now. It's very, very tight.
Yeah, like you touched on there. Obviously, Fulham's found a bit of form. Jimenez is scoring goals again. Like he always has. He's been very consistent in that respect over the years in the Premier League. Um, so yeah, they seem to be Silva seems to be getting a tune out of the players, and like you said about players coming back from AFCON, likes of Iwobi and things, who's been a really strong player for them. You know, is only going to add to their strength in their squad. So I would possibly put them 7th. Um, as for Brentford, I think I can see them dropping down a bit. So I'm going to say they're going to go 8th. Um, and I expect Chelsea and Man United to pick up a bit. Chelsea, I want to put 5th, I think. Newcastle, I'll go 6th. Again, the injuries on the back line could prove crucial for Newcastle in the coming weeks. Don't really have a great deal of depth at the back at the moment, and an injury to another centre back or an injury to one of the full backs, and there's not really that depth there, and that could prove really problematic. We've seen Lewis Miley playing at right back in recent weeks, who's done an absolutely fantastic job, but we don't really have players that can slot into those positions. You're looking at the bench and you've got Alex Murphy, who's 19-year-old and hasn't had a great deal of Premier League football. I think he's only played 2 games. So it's a big step up. So yeah, I think, the amount of games is going to take its toll. Champions League, FA Cup, obviously Carabao Cup's not looking promising after that result there yesterday. But yeah, I think it's going to be, the fixture list is very heavy. There's a lot of hard games in there, away trips to Liverpool and City and the like. So yeah, I do think it's going to be a tricky run in.
Can I just can I just have can I just ask while we're talking about Newcastle, your thoughts on it, because I just still don't know what Newcastle are this season. And I look at, so I've watched them a few times over the last few weeks. I watched the Burnley game, I watched the Leeds game, I watched the game last night, and it just doesn't look to me like the Newcastle I know of the last sort of 2.5, 3 seasons. That added with, I mean, Newcastle have conceded 8 goals in the last 3 games at St James's Park. That is unheard of under Eddie Howe. But they won the 3 games in a row in the Premier League. They've got Wolves away next, which you expect them to go and get the win. But it's still not convincing. I mean, are you just happy that they're getting the wins and they're back up there in 6th and in contention for Champions League? Are you a bit concerned about the level of performance from what they have been over the last few years is dropped, really?
What I would say is I think a lot of sides are better prepared to play against her now. They come up to the Northeast knowing the style of play that we've played in the past, and they adapt their game to that. Coming in with a game plan, so they know that the Newcastle side really struggles against that low block. So a lot of teams will invite Newcastle on and ask them to break them down, and that is a weakness for Newcastle. Force them to play through the middle, which would like they don't really have that. They do in Bruno Guimaraes, but in Tonali, but Tonali's not been in the greatest of form lately, and for all um for all getting results, it is frustrating to be conceding the goals. Like that just looks like there's something needs to change in there in terms of there needs to be like a creative spark in there. So hopefully there'll be an addition at some point who can be that little creative spark who can, you know, unlock a defence, because at this moment in time, when we're forced to play through the middle, quickly running out of ideas, and it's going to either flank, and a lot of a lot of teams are quite happy for it to have the ball on the flank and push towards the touchline, and use the byline as a defender too. So yeah, that like it can be frustrating, but you can see what they're working towards. It's just a bit of a work in progress, and that's how it feels.
So do you think that's affecting the players though? Sorry, Connor, last one, and then you can come in. Do you think that's affecting the players though? Because like Anthony Gordon does not look a shadow of the player he was. Tonali, as you touched on, hasn't for a little while. Alanga looks a different planet from what he was last season. You're looking at this and you're thinking, is the fact that Eddie Howe not changing it up and not, adapting himself instead of just going for the same 4-3-3. No, this is what we do, and not change. Is it having an effect on the players? Because, I mean, I know you're not in international football, but certainly if I'm Anthony Gordon, I'm sitting there right now and he's not going to get a look in for the England team in the summer at the minute. And is that not an effect that the manager's having on the players by the way he's not adapting? I mean, it just seems players don't get bad overnight. I'm not saying Anthony Gordon's bad. I still think he's a fantastic player, by the way, but he hasn't played well for a long time. Is is that on the manager? It's just such a strange one. I don't know if it's just more for me being from the northeast. It's more prominent, but it just seems like a drop off, and you don't really know why these brilliant footballers are not performing to the level that where they have been for the last few years.
So for me, I, I do think there needs to be a certain amount of adaptation, but a lot of it is if it's not broken, don't fix it. Um, in terms of Gordon, yeah, I agree. He hasn't played the way he has in a couple of seasons ago. He was one of the hottest prospects and the best wingers in the league. Right up there with the best anyway. Um, and he's just not producing the goods at the moment. As for a nice alternative for your England squad, not that I'm bothered, you've got Harvey Barnes there, who's absolutely on fire at the minute. He's scoring goals for fun and he's creating things. But in terms of Anthony Gordon, I don't know. I don't know what it is. He just doesn't seem the same player at this moment in time.
Harvey
I
Barnes is
don't think it's
Scottish.
this. Is he classed as Scottish? Is he? Yeah,
Sure,
I
he's
didn't know if
Scottish.
he was.
I don't think
He
he's
might play
declared
for the
though.
Scot.
He hasn't declared, but I'm sure. I'm sure he's. I don't know. Was I
I
not
think
reading
there
that?
was. I think there was talks about him potentially going into the Scotland squad. But I tell you something. He's certainly playing his socks off at the minute. I'm sure he has had an England call up, but I don't care if I'm honest. But
Right. Anyway, that's
anyway,
me done. I'm going to stop quizzing that. I
yeah,
was just curious as to because I just
yeah.
from the outside in, if I was a Newcastle support myself, I'd be very,
At,
I'd be frustrated.
at the
I'd
end of
be
the
very.
day, at the end of the day, Anthony Gordon's not being asked to do anything different that he hasn't been asked to do in previous seasons. So that would be my answer to that. That's a Gordon thing. That's not an Eddie Howe thing for me. Um, so yeah, I think that's down to Anthony Gordon, as opposed to the formation and how we play as a side.
Am I allowed to
Alanga,
direct the conversation now? Yeah. Oh no, sorry, we're going over at Langer. Oh,
I
I've
was.
jumped in again.
Alanga,
I can see Connor's little
Ala-
face fuming in the corner. He looks
No.
so annoyed.
yeah, yeah. Alanga is a bit of an outlier. I think, yeah, the jury's out on him still. So yeah,
Oh, I think
I'll
the
keep it
jury's
short and
there.
sweet on that one, Connor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Niall just decided he wanted to run the show, which is fine. Harvey Barnes has actually played one game for England, by the way. So I don't know if he can play
I
for
thought you
Scotland.
had. Thought you had.
Anyways, that is our ups and downs. I mean, I touched on Villa. I've still in the top four, but yeah, that's pretty much that. In terms of games this weekend, I was going to talk about Wolves against Newcastle, but I think we've talked about Newcastle enough, so we'll scrap that off. Do or die though for West Ham. It's Spurs this weekend. Spurs obviously not great at home. West Ham not great at all. But I just look at West Ham's fixtures and think, that festive period, they had Fulham at home, lost. Brighton at home, drew. Wolves away, lost. Forest in a big 6-pointer, lost. And I look at the games they got coming up. Obviously, Tottenham away, it feels like a one they could get something from. Sunderland at home, well, they'll be thinking they can get something from that. Chelsea away, that'll be difficult. Burnley away, it's a big game, and then they've got Man United at home, which doesn't feel as scary as it maybe once was. But I just feel like West Ham, need to find some momentum from somewhere, Niall. And is Tottenham away a place where you can get that with how bad they are at home? And basically, the ultimate question I'm asking is are West Ham and like the last chance saloon right now to stay up? Do they have to pick up a win this weekend?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Um, I think West Ham are doomed, to be honest. That a part of us still thinks they've got a very good manager, but I mean, I used to say they had Paqueta and Bowen, but it looks like Paqueta is leaving, and that says something when a player wants to leave and go and play in Brazil. I know he's Brazilian, but surely he's still got enough quality to be playing in the Premier League without a doubt. I think there's all sorts going on there. I think there's more. You know yourself, Connor, when things aren't right behind the scenes, it doesn't matter what you do on the pitch a lot of the time. So, yeah, I don't think there's much more they can do. If they're on about if sacking Nuno or Santo, who do you bring in? Because I've seen names like Slavan Bilic thrown about. Like, what's he? There's no way you're gonna trust him over Nuno to keep a football club in the Premier League right now in 2025, 2026. So yeah, I think that's done. If I'm being honest with you, I'd be very surprised if they pick up. Very surprised. I'm not ruling it out because it's football, and that's why we love football, because anything can happen. But I'd be very surprised if they put enough together to stop in the Premier League.
Yeah, they conceded the most goals in the league as well. But I think this weekend's important because, Tony, Forest have got Arsenal at home. So you probably think that Forest won't win that game. So if West Ham were to pick up a win against Tottenham, they'd move within 4 points of Forest. And that feels much more manageable, doesn't it, compared to the 7 we're at right now. Feels like if West Ham were to find a win there, then they go against Sunderland at home and probably think, right, we can probably get something against Sunderland. Sunderland have only won 2 away games this season, so we might even if it's a draw, it's still getting us points on the board. It feels like this weekend is probably one of the last chances West Ham are going to have to close this gap on Forest.
Yeah, need a springboard from this weekend, really, like you say, because the fixtures don't get any easier. It's a winnable game, Tottenham notorious for really being bad at home. Thomas Frank under an incredible amount of pressure at this moment in time. So they should be eyeing this game up as a winnable game, and like I say, that it could springboard them up the table a bit, and obviously with Forest playing Arsenal, who are in a formidable form at the moment, bit of a juggernaut. I can't see Forest getting anything from that. Might surprise me and get a draw, but I really can't see it. So yeah, I do think this is a big opportunity for West Ham.
Yeah, I'd agree. Leeds also playing Fulham, and I feel like this is a really big game for Leeds because I think if Leeds were to win this, they'd move on to, let's just get the Premier League table up. Leeds win, they're going to 25 points. That feels pretty significant for them, and considering I think we all, expected Leeds to be in and around the relegation zone come the end of the season, to be on 25 points from 22 games and to be potentially 11 clear of the relegation zone just feels massive, Niall, doesn't it? So I feel like this game for Leeds at the weekend is pretty significant. It's a chance for them to pick up a big win at home against a team that they'd probably fancied themselves against.
Yeah, as I say, I think I was pretty hard on Leeds this season, and they've proven me wrong. I think Daniel Farke has shown that he can adapt, and he has, and they've strung together some really positive performances, and they've looked fantastic for a little while. And as I said earlier, I thought they played really well against Newcastle, and lost that game ultimately. But I think that they're shown enough to think, that they can get results against teams like Fulham at home. Although Fulham, as we've touched on, have been superb. I think that'll probably be a very interesting game, actually. I don't know who I would back on that, but probably sit on the fence and see a draw. But I don't know. I just think Leeds, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the key for them. And I think, in my defence, I did always say if they can keep him fit and get him in form, which was seen before under Carlo Ancelotti for Everton. I know it was many years ago, but if you could get him back to what he was then they've got a hell of a player on their hands. And that's why he had big clubs after him, like Newcastle were interested. There was a few clubs sniffing around him because they've seen him do it before. Just hasn't done it consistently enough. If Leeds can keep him in that form and keep him fit, then they can finish higher than where they are now, and ultimately they deserve to be because they've taken a lot of criticism, and they're proving a lot of people wrong, including me.
Well, we'll finish off with a few just sort of quick predictions. I'm not asking for scores, but whether or not you think we home win, draw, or away win. We'll start with Sunderland against Palace. Tony, how do you see that one going? Do you think Sunderland draw? Do you think Palace will bounce back from that embarrassing FA Cup FA Cup third round defeat?
Yeah, I think the Palace fans will be a bit scolded after that one. The great for Macclesfield mind, but a few blushes from Selhurst Park there. But anyway, in terms of Sunderland, formidable at home, so unbeaten at home as well. So I don't see Palace picking up a win. I'll go with Sunderland win.
I think this has got like 0-0 written all over it for me. Niall, quickly, what do you think for this one?
Sunderland haven't won haven't won since the derby. So, they've been ticking over, but they haven't won for a little while. They'll see this as a big opportunity. Palace, as you said, will think that they have to win because they need to right the wrongs of last weekend. So, I think it could be an interesting one. As Anne said, I think Sunderland's home form, if you're going to pick a winner, it'd be Sunderland. And I think they've got most of their players back now, and their squad's virtually fully fit, and I think they can return back to the form that they were in, sort of earlier in the season. So yeah, I'd back Sunderland.
Chelsea Brentford. This is a strange one because obviously Chelsea got a new manager, so we don't know how they'll necessarily play. Brentford being a royal pain in the arse recently for teams. They've been really good form. Thiago's bagging in the goals. I think logically you'd probably say a home win here, but I certainly wouldn't be shocked if Brentford went there and got something. Anyone disagree? What do you think, Tony? Do you think Brentford have got a chance here, or do you think home win?
I'm going to go draw. I'm going to go down the middle.
Yeah, fair enough, Niall. Any disagreements there?
I don't know. It's impossible to know how the season is going to go. They've got a lot of injuries, Chelsea, as well. I think they're currently getting beat off Arsenal. So I'm not 100%. I think I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at any result in that game. So I'll sit on the fence with Ant because I'm not 100% sure.
Fair enough. I'm guessing we're all going to say Burnley don't have a chance at Anfield. No. No, yeah, I'd agree. Tottenham West Ham, do you think... I've got a suspicion that West Ham might get something here. I'm not sure if they'll win it, but I think West Ham might... I'm going to say draw for this one. I feel like Tottenham really bad at home, and this is the kind of game... if Thomas Frank's under pressure, which he seems to be, this is the type of game that can really... You could see a boo goal in this one if West Ham were to get something. But does anyone fancy West Ham to get 3 points here? Do you think it's more likely to be a draw or Tottenham?
Spurs. I'm going to say Spurs.
Spurs, Niall?
Yeah, I think it's Spurs. I haven't seen enough fight in West Ham, to be honest. I think, if it was... It sounds ridiculous. If it was Wolves going there tomorrow, I'd be more thinking because Wolves are showing a bit of fight, whereas West Ham, I haven't really seen much in them at the minute. So, I think Tottenham they'll probably just have too much for them. And they've signed Conor Gallagher today, which is an excellent signing.
Yeah,
you'd think so. Yeah.
Leeds Fulham. I fancy Leeds here. I've got them moving up in the Premier League table and me ups and downs, so I fancy Leeds to get the win, even though Fulham are in good form. But I feel like Leeds will have enough. Anyone disagree?
I don't know. It's a tough one to call. I'd probably back a draw, to be honest.
Draw, Tony? Draw?
Yeah, I have to agree with Niall there.
Okay, well, I'll go with the Leeds win. Forest, I don't give them a chance against Arsenal. I watched them against Man City the other week, and I think Arsenal are possibly better than Man City, so I'm going with an Arsenal win here. Anyone fancy Forest, or should we move on?
Arsenal.
Wolves, Newcastle. I think this is an interesting game. If Niall didn't spend 20 minutes quizzing Ant earlier in the podcast about Newcastle, we would have spoken about this game in a little bit more depth. I think Wolves will fancy themselves in this, especially with Newcastle playing in midweek, and the amount of games Newcastle have got to play and the injuries they've got. I think Wolves might feel like they can make it uncomfortable, and obviously they've got a little bit of their tails up a little bit. They've had a decent start at 2026. I'm not saying Wolves will win, but I don't think this is going to be the gimme for Newcastle that it probably looked like a month ago. In my opinion, I wouldn't be shocked if Wolves got a draw.
All right, I'll go first.
Sorry, I should direct it.
I think Newcastle have too much for them. I don't think it'll be a walk in the park. I think it'll probably be a bit of a nervy watch, to be honest, if you're a Newcastle supporter. I don't think it'll be 3s and 4s, which it probably could have been at one point. But yeah, I think Newcastle they'll win. But I think it'll just be like a 1-0 or a 2-1. But I do think Newcastle will beat them.
Tony, are you feeling confident?
Yeah, I do think it's a winnable game for Newcastle. I'm sure Eddie Howe will be looking at that, thinking, you can certainly get 3 points out of the game. I do agree with what you said about Wolves having their tails up. To be fair, the game at St James's was quite a tight affair anyway. Wolves were relatively good on the day. I just think losing Cunha has been a massive blow to them. He's a very creative player, and very talented player as well. So it's been massive for them. But yeah, I still fancy Newcastle to win.
Villa, Everton. I think home win here feels like the obvious one. I mean, Everton. I mean, I looked at their bench at the weekend against Sunderland, and they had 2 goalkeepers in Barry, and that was like the only senior players that they seem to have on there. Just the squad depth is really bad, and we talked about this at the start of the season. To be fair with Everton, that the squad depth is weak, and they've had a few injuries and a few suspensions, and there it is. But yeah, I think Villa. Don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. You'd have Villa to win this one, and the last one, Brighton Bournemouth. I think both teams probably feel like they need to win this one. And I fancy Brighton to get the 3 points. I'm not convinced by Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth will really struggle against Brighton's press. And I think Bournemouth will not be able to keep a clean sheet here. So I think Brighton will probably win this one. Maybe 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, something like that. Anyone disagree with that before we sign off? Or are we happy? Okay. Well,
I've just got a question for Anth about Newcastle.
What was I going to say? I was going to say that I think Brighton will be buoyed by that result at Old Trafford through the week there. So I do think I do agree with what you're saying. I do think they can take that that success into this game with the Bournemouth side that have been struggling of late. So yeah,
I do have one more thing to say. I googled Harvey Bonds can play for Scotland because he's only played once for England in a friendly, so he is eligible for Scotland.
Fair enough.
So
well, there we go. What a way to end. Right, thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you next week as we review all this Premier League action. And yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.